The scent of garlic and butter filled the kitchen as I stirred the pasta sauce, the wooden spoon gliding against the pan. My mind wandered like it always did when I was alone in this space. Alone despite the fact that I was married. Lisa's voice snapped me out of my thoughts.
Mom?
She sounded hesitant, almost careful. I turned, wiping my hands on a dish towel, and saw her standing in the doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her dark eyes scanning my face. "You're home early," I said, forcing a smile. "Everything okay?" She hesitated, then dropped her bag onto the counter with a soft thud.
Who's Frida?
The question threw me off balance. My fingers tightened around the dish towel. "What?" Lisa pulled out a bottle of water from the fridge, took a sip, and then looked at me, waiting.
Frida? Who is she?
I let out a small laugh, shaking my head. "Lisa, I have no idea what you're talking about." Her expression didn't change. She set the bottle down.
I saw Dad with a woman today.
A strange feeling crawled under my skin, but I kept my face neutral. "Okay," I said carefully. "Where?"
At a cafe. Near my school.
I forced myself to keep stirring the sauce, though my hands suddenly felt clumsy. "Lisa, your dad meets a lot of people for work. That doesn't mean—"
She's not a client, Mom.
I sighed, placing the spoon down. "How do you know that?" Lisa crossed her arms.
Because I saw her name on his phone last week. Frida. And today it was her sitting across from him, laughing at whatever he was saying.
The words felt like ice down my spine, but I kept my face calm. "Lisa, you might be reading too much into this." Lisa scoffed.
I knew you'd say that.
I took a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Because I don't want you assuming things without proof." Lisa's eyes flared with frustration.
So, what would you call this? He was leaning in, smiling, like he actually cared about what she was saying. You should have seen his face, Mom. He doesn't even look at us like that anymore.
My throat tightened. I turned back to the stove, pretending to adjust the heat. "Lisa, your dad has been distant, I won't deny that. But that doesn't mean he's—" Lisa cut me off.
If it's nothing, then why did he ignore the call when I was around?
I turned sharply. "What, really?" She leaned on the counter.
Last week. We were in the car, and his phone was on the dashboard. It rang, and I saw the name. Frida. He glanced at me, then flipped the phone over so I couldn't see the screen anymore.
I pressed my lips together, gripping the edge of the counter. Lisa watched me closely.
You're just gonna brush this off, aren't you?
"I'm not brushing anything off."
You are, Mom.
I exhaled. "Lisa, I need you to understand something. Marriage, relationships in general, aren't as simple as they seem. There are things that—" Lisa threw up her hands.
Oh, come on!
I turned to face her fully. "Lisa, you're 16. You see things in black and white. But life isn't that clear-cut. Your dad and I have been together for a long time." She shook her head.
And that means what? That you're okay with him sneaking around?
I swallowed hard. "I didn't say that."
Then what are you saying?
I hesitated. Lisa let out a bitter laugh.
You always do this.
My stomach clenched. "Do what?"
Make excuses for him. Pretend like everything's fine when it's not.
I pressed a hand to my forehead, exhaustion creeping in. "Lisa, this isn't as easy as you think. If I just walk up to him and demand answers, do you really think he'll tell me the truth?" Lisa didn't hesitate.
Maybe not. But if you don't ask, then you're just letting him get away with it.
I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Lisa's face softened.
Mom?
I stared at the sauce simmering on the stove. Lisa sighed, stepping closer.
I'm not trying to hurt you,
She bit her lip.
I hate seeing you like this.
I turned to her, my voice quieter now. Like what? She held my gaze.
Like you're waiting for him to care.
A deep, aching silence settled between us. Lisa reached for my hand.
I know you love him, but I don't want you to ignore this just because it's easier.
Her fingers squeezed mine gently, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like she was the one protecting me. I forced a small smile, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You're a lot smarter than I was at your age, you know that. She smiled back, but it was laced with sadness.
So, what are you gonna do?
I turned back to the stove, stirring the sauce mindlessly. What was I going to do? I wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. The name Frida wasn't going to leave my mind anytime soon. I had never been the kind of woman to snoop through my husband's things. Not once in our 18 years of marriage had I checked his phone, gone through his emails, or questioned his late nights. But now I couldn't ignore the nagging weight pressing on my chest. Frida. The name lingered in my mind like a song stuck on repeat. I sat on the couch, Harry's laptop resting on my lap. He had left it open on the dining table as if daring me to look, but it was locked. I hesitated for a moment, then pulled in a slow breath, and then I unlocked it after several trials. Then started clicking through his emails. Nothing suspicious. Business reports, some forwarded jokes from old college friends, a reminder to pay the electricity bill. But then, an email titled Friday Night caught my eye. I clicked it. The email was short. Looking forward to seeing you again. Same place? -F. I read it twice, my fingers gripping the edge of the laptop. There was no other context, no last names, no details, but my gut told me exactly what I didn't want to believe. So they are talking in mails so that nobody could find out? I leaned back, exhaling slowly. This wasn't business. Harry wasn't just busy. I stared at the screen, my thoughts spinning in 100 directions. If I confronted him now, he'd deny it. If I ignored it, I'd be lying to myself. I needed to know more. Standing up, I walked to the kitchen and grabbed my phone. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Who is Frida? I wanted to type it. I wanted to send it to Harry and demand answers, but instead I deleted the message and did something I never thought I would. I searched for her. Later that evening, the sun had dipped below the horizon by the time Lisa walked through the door, kicking off her sneakers before dropping her bag on the floor. She glanced at me, her brows pulling together.
You okay?
I hesitated, then motioned for her to sit. We need to talk. Lisa sat down across from me, her hands resting on the table.
About Dad?
I nodded. No, I tilted my head slightly, pushing my laptop toward her. Lisa leaned forward, scanning the screen. I watched her face carefully as she read through the email. When she looked up, her eyes were sharp.
So it's her.
I swallowed. I don't know for sure, but it's suspicious. Lisa's fingers tapped against the table.
Have you checked his texts?
I hesitated. That felt like crossing a line I wasn't sure I was ready to cross. Lisa sighed.
Mom, if he's sneaking around, you can't just wait for him to confess.
I ran a hand through my hair. I know, but... I sighed. I'm scared of what I'll find. Lisa's expression softened.
You already found something.
I stared at the screen. She was right. I just wasn't ready to admit it. Lisa sat back, crossing her arms.
So what's the plan?
I frowned. Plan? Lisa smirked.
Yeah. What's next? We're not just gonna sit here, are we?
I blinked. You're 16. She shrugged.
So?
I gave her a look. This isn't your job. Lisa leaned forward.
Neither is pretending everything's fine when it's not.
I sighed, rubbing my temples. Lisa,
Mom, listen.
She grabbed my hands, squeezing them.
I don't care if I'm 16. I see things, I hear things, and if Dad is doing something shady, I want to know too.
Her determination both warmed and worried me. I exhaled. Okay. Lisa's face lit up.
Okay?
I nodded. But we have to be careful. Lisa grinned.
Careful is my middle name.
I raised an eyebrow. Since when? She laughed, but there was a spark in her eyes that reminded me of myself at her age. I glanced back at the laptop. Frida. The name sat there, taunting me. I didn't know what I was about to step into. But one thing was clear. Lisa and I weren't stepping out of it anytime soon. The evening started like any other. Lisa was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, while I stood in the kitchen absently stirring a pot of soup. My mind was tangled in 1,000 thoughts, but the loudest one was this. What if Harry had been lying all along? What if Frida wasn't just a name on his phone, but something more? I was still trying to piece everything together when Harry walked in.
Hey.
He said casually, setting his briefcase by the door. Lisa barely glanced up from her phone. I turned, giving him a quick look. Long day? He stretched his arms.
Yeah, but I have news.
I raised an eyebrow. Good news or bad news?
Depends.
He loosened his tie, walking into the kitchen.
I invited my new business partner over for dinner tonight.
The spoon slipped from my hand, clanking against the pot. Lisa's head shot up.
Who?
Harry leaned against the counter, completely unaware of the way my stomach clenched.
Frida.
I forced my expression to stay neutral. Frida?
Yeah, and her husband, James. I figured it'd be good for all of us to meet.
Lisa and I exchanged a look. My pulse raced, not from excitement, but from the sheer unpredictability of what was about to happen. Frida was coming here, to our house, sitting at our dinner table, and she was bringing her husband. Lisa's fingers curled around her phone.
She's married.
Harry frowned slightly.
Yeah, James is a great guy. Works in finance. Why?
I felt my face heat, because our entire theory just took a nosedive into confusion, that's why. I quickly turned back to the stove, pretending to focus on the soup. Nothing, just curious. Lisa wasn't as subtle.
So you and Frida, new business partners?
Her voice was light, but I knew her well enough to hear the sharp edge beneath it. Harry shrugged.
Yep, we've been discussing a project for weeks now.
Lisa stared at him.
Weeks.
Harry didn't catch the way her tone shifted.
Yeah, but we finally locked things down, so I thought tonight would be a good time to celebrate.
Lisa gave me a pointed look. I avoided her gaze.
Dinner's at 7.
Harry continued, reaching for a glass of water.
Just try to be welcoming, all right?
I let out a slow breath. Of course. Lisa muttered under her breath.
Oh, we'll be very welcoming.
At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I took a steadying breath before opening it, and there she was. Frida. She was striking, tall, poised, with deep auburn hair swept into a neat bun. She wore a sleek red dress, attractive hourglass figure, her makeup flawless, her smile practiced and polite. Beside her stood a man who looked just as polished. James. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, his grey suit crisp, and his handshake firm when he greeted me.
Elora,
Frida said, her voice smooth.
it's so nice to finally meet you.
I forced a smile. Same here, dear. Lisa stood behind me, arms crossed, eyes locked on Frida like a detective analyzing a suspect. James smiled warmly.
Harry's told us so much about you.
I glanced at Harry. Has he? Harry shot me a look, silently warning me to behave. I stepped aside, allowing them in. As we all settled into the dining room, Lisa took a seat directly across from James, her expression unreadable.
So, James,
She started casually.
how long have Frida and my dad been working together?
James poured himself a glass of water.
Not only Frida, we all are working, maybe. A few weeks, I believe.
Lisa tilted her head.
And you're okay with them spending so much time together?
Harry nearly choked on his drink. James asked.
Excuse me.
Frida let out a light laugh.
Well, it is a business partnership.
Lisa's eyes didn't leave James.
Right.
James blinked, confused.
Of course.
Lisa shrugged.
Just asking. It's rare to see a husband so secure when his wife spends so much time with another man.
The room tensed. James asked.
I have same questions for Elora.
Harry cleared his throat.
Lisa?
James laughed, shaking his head.
I don't mind at all. Business is business. Besides, Frida tells me everything.
He turned to her with a smile.
Right, honey?
Frida smiled back, though something flickered in her eyes.
Of course.
Lisa drummed her fingers against the table.
Interesting.
Harry shot her a warning glance.
Lisa, maybe you should.
Lisa ignored him.
Mom, don't you think it's fascinating how some people can work so closely together and keep everything professional? Frida is too beautiful. Anyone could fall for her. My dad is really loyal. Hats off to him.
I forced a smile. Yeah, he is, and that is interesting. James chuckled, shaking his head.
Are you two trying to suggest something?
Lisa leaned in slightly.
Are you worried we are?
James straightened.
Well, it sounds like you don't want this business deal to happen.
That wasn't what we meant, but his misunderstanding worked in our favor. I quickly stepped in. Of course we do. Lisa just likes to ask questions. Lisa's lips pressed together, clearly annoyed that I was de-escalating. Frida finally spoke, her voice smooth as silk.
Lisa, you must be very protective of your father.
Lisa didn't blink.
And my mother.
A heavy silence settled over the table. Harry exhaled sharply.
Why don't we move on to something else?
Lisa leaned back, satisfied.
Sure.
James was not relaxed, like he was unaware of something that we had revealed him, or at least gave a hint.
Good.
James said, but his eyes locked into Frida. And then he turned to Harry.
Now, tell me more about this project. What's the next step?
Harry, eager to shift the conversation, launched into a detailed explanation of his work with Frida. But I wasn't listening. I was watching Frida. And for the first time, I noticed something. She wasn't looking at James, she was watching Harry. By the time dinner ended, the tension had dulled, but it hadn't disappeared. As we walked our guests to the door, Frida turned to me.
It really was lovely meeting you, Elora.
I smiled, though my mind was racing. Likewise. James shook Harry's hand.
We'll talk more on Monday.
As they stepped onto the porch, Lisa leaned against the doorframe, arms still crossed.
James,
She said casually.
do you ever check Frida's phone?
James gave her an amused look.
Are you telling me that I should?
Lisa shrugged.
No, just wondering.
James chuckled, and he whispered in Lisa's ears.
You're quite the curious one, aren't you? And if your hint goes wrong, then I will not spare you.
Lisa smirked.
You have no idea.
James said.
Maybe you should watch your mum first.
Lisa laughed, a bitter one. As soon as they drove off, I turned to Harry. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing.
What was that?
Lisa folded her arms.
What? We were just curious about Frida.
Harry's jaw tensed.
Lisa,
I held up a hand. It's fine. Harry glanced between us, then sighed.
I don't know what you two are trying to do, but stop.
Lisa raised an eyebrow.
Trying to do?
Harry exhaled.
Yes. Whatever game this is, drop it.
Lisa's voice was quiet but sharp.
Is it a game?
Harry's expression darkened.
Enough.
He turned and walked upstairs, leaving Lisa and me standing in the dimly lit hallway. Lisa turned to me.
He's hiding something which we already know.
I swallowed. I know. Lisa's eyes gleamed with determination.
Then let's find out what, or we can say that just prove it.
And just like that, we were back in the game. Lisa had been off all day. I watched her from the kitchen as she sat on the couch, staring at the TV without really watching it. Her fingers absent-mindedly tapped against her knee, her lips pressed into a tight line. Something was wrong. Lisa! I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked over. You okay? She barely glanced at me.
Yeah.
I sat down beside her, studying her face. You sure?
Mom, I'm fine.
Her voice had that clipped tone, the one that meant drop it. I didn't. You barely touched your breakfast. You've been zoning out all morning, and now you look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Lisa exhaled through her nose.
It's just school stuff.
I frowned. Lisa never stressed about school. Lisa, my voice softened. Talk to me. She stood up abruptly.
I said I'm fine.
I watched as she disappeared up the stairs, her shoulders tense. Something wasn't adding up. A mother's instinct. Later that evening, as I walked past Lisa's room, I heard something, a faint clinking sound, like a bottle tapping against a counter. I stopped. The door was slightly open, just enough for me to see inside. Lisa was sitting on her bed, her back turned to me. Her hands moved quickly, unscrewing the lid of a small white bottle. I knew what that was before I even saw the pills. My chest tightened. I pushed the door open. Lisa jumped. She spun around, shoving the bottle under her blanket.
Mom, what the hell?
I didn't say a word. I just walked forward, grabbed the blanket, and yanked it away. The bottle rolled onto the bedspread. A prescription bottle. My hand shook as I picked it up. I read the label. I felt like the ground beneath me had shifted. Lisa! I whispered, my voice shaking. What is this? Lisa crossed her arms, her jaw tightening.
You can read, can't you? I am taking pills.
I snapped my eyes up to her. Don't you dare talk to me like that. She clenched her fists but didn't say anything. Are you taking these? My voice cracked. Lisa, are you pregnant? Lisa scoffed.
What do you think?
I stared at her. Then, before I could stop myself, my hand flew. A sharp smack echoed through the room. Lisa gasped. I had never hit her before. She stared at me, wide-eyed, one hand pressed against her cheek.
I felt sick.
Lisa! I stepped forward, my hands trembling. Baby, She jerked back.
Don't!
Her voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through me like a blade. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Lisa's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then she turned, grabbed her jacket, and stormed past me. Lisa, wait! She didn't. I followed her down the stairs, my heart hammering. Lisa, please, let's talk. She yanked open the front door. I reached for her arm. Where are you going? She jerked away.
Away from you.
And then she was gone, into the night. I stood frozen, my hand still outstretched. The front door slammed shut. The silence that followed was deafening. Lisa had walked out before. Angry, frustrated, dramatic exits. But this was different. This wasn't a door slam. That meant I'll cool down in an hour. This was a door slam. That meant I don't know when I'm coming back. And that terrified me. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I sank onto the couch, staring at the darkened street outside. Where had she gone? Was she safe? I buried my face in my hands. I had lost control of everything. Lisa, Harry, my entire life, and I had no idea how to fix it. The call rang and rang. I sat on the edge of the couch, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. Lisa wasn't answering. I tried again. Voicemail. I exhaled sharply and dialed one more time. Finally, the line clicked.
What?
Lisa's voice was flat, distant. Lisa, I breathed, relief mixing with frustration. Where are you?
Why do you care?
I clenched my jaw. Don't do that.
Do what?
Act like I don't love you. Lisa let out a dry laugh.
Oh, now you care? Actually, you are afraid that I may be pregnant and everyone will get to know about that, isn't it?
Lisa, please, just come home. We'll talk.
I don't feel like talking.
I closed my eyes for a moment. I know you're angry. I know I messed up, but running away isn't the answer.
I didn't run away, Mom. I just left. There's a difference.
I took a deep breath. Lisa, about earlier, I shouldn't have... My voice wavered. I shouldn't have done that to you. Silence. I lost control. That's not an excuse, but I hate that I did that. Lisa didn't say anything. I swallowed hard. I was scared. I saw those pills and I thought...
You thought what? That I was doing drugs? That I was some reckless, out-of-control kid? Mom, I was taking pills, that's all?
No, I whispered. I thought I failed you. Another silence. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Lisa, I should have been paying more attention. I should have noticed what was going on with you. This is my fault. Lisa scoffed.
You always do this.
Do what?
Make everything about you?
I froze. Lisa exhaled loudly.
You're saying this is your fault, but it's not. I make my own choices. I take responsibility for them. I have a personal life, and I took pills to control. You don't have to control everything in my life.
That's not what I'm trying to do. Lisa gave a dry laugh.
Oh, really?
Yes, I swear, Lisa, I am not against you. I'm not against love. I just don't want you to make mistakes you can't undo. Lisa's voice sharpened.
And what do you know about mistakes, huh? You married Dad, and now you just live your little perfect life pretending everything's fine.
A sharp pain cut through my chest. Lisa.
You don't understand anything about me, Mom.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Her voice cracked.
You don't get it. You will never get it. I am adult. I am grown up.
Then help me get it. My voice rose. Lisa, I'm trying so hard. She didn't answer. Lisa, please. Silence, then. The call dropped. I stared at the screen. Call ended. Lisa was gone. I called her again, straight to voicemail. I texted. No reply. I paced the living room, my arms wrapped around myself. It was getting late. Too late for a 16-year-old to be out alone. Where was she? Who was she with? My brain spun in 100 directions, each one worse than the last. I grabbed my keys and stepped toward the door. I needed to look for her. I needed to do something. Before I could leave, I heard the front door unlock. Harry walked in, dropping his briefcase by the door. He barely looked at me.
Hey,
He loosened his tie, rubbing his temples.
long day.
I stared at him. He walked past me toward the kitchen, opening the fridge. I blinked. He hadn't asked about Lisa. Not once. She's not here. My voice was barely above a whisper. Harry grabbed a bottle of water, took a sip, and finally glanced at me.
What?
Lisa. I swallowed. She's gone. Harry frowned.
What do you mean, gone?
I mean, she walked out. My voice shook. And she hasn't come back. Harry sighed heavily. like I'd just told him the dishwasher was broken.
Jesus, Alora.
He set down his bottle.
You let her leave?
My blood turned hot. I let her. She stormed out, Harry. What was I supposed to do? Lock her inside?
You're her mother. You should have handled it.
I stared at him, disbelief crawling up my spine. I tried handling it, Harry, but maybe if you ever paid attention to her, she wouldn't have felt the need to run in the first place. Harry's jaw clenched.
Don't start.
Oh, I will start, I snapped, because this is the first time you've even noticed she's missing. Harry's face darkened.
I work all day to provide for this family, and now I come home to this?
He gestured around like the problem was the house, not our missing daughter. I let out a bitter laugh. Our daughter is missing, and all you can think about is your long day.
I think,
He said coldly.
that if Lisa is missing, it's because you couldn't keep her under control.
The words sliced through me like glass. I inhaled sharply. You're unbelievable.
And you're irresponsible.
I sucked in a breath, feeling something in me snap. Get out! My voice was ice. Harry blinked.
What?
Get out! He scoffed, shaking his head.
You're being ridiculous.
No, Harry, you don't get to stand here and blame me when you've never been around. I stepped forward. So go back to your perfect little world where your business deals matter more than your family. Harry's face twitched. For a moment I thought he'd argue, but instead he grabbed his keys.
Fine.
And just like that he left, alone again. I stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door. The house was too quiet, too empty. Lisa was gone, Harry was gone, and I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. I had never felt lonelier in my entire life. Morning arrived like a thief, slipping in through the cracks of the blinds. I opened my eyes slowly, my head aching from restless sleep. For a moment, I forgot everything. The empty feeling in my chest, the heavy weight pressing down on my ribs. It all vanished in that brief second between sleep and waking. And then, like a wave crashing over me, it all came back. Lisa was still missing. I pushed myself up from the couch. I hadn't even made it to the bed last night. The blanket I had grabbed was crumpled at my feet, and my phone was still in my hand. Lisa's unanswered messages staring back at me. Then I heard it, a rustling from the kitchen. I stood up quickly and turned the corner. Harry. He was standing by the counter making coffee like nothing had happened, like he hadn't walked out last night, like our daughter wasn't still missing. Did you even look for her? My voice came out sharp, slicing through the quiet morning. Harry glanced up, stirring his cup.
Of course I did.
Where?
A few places.
I scoffed. Wow, a few places. You must have really tried hard. He exhaled, setting his mug down.
Alora, we don't have time for this.
You don't have time for anything, do you, Harry?
We need to call the police.
I blinked. Oh, now you want to involve them? He shot me a look.
Are you done?
I crossed my arms. Not even close. Harry ran a hand through his hair.
Look, you're upset. I get it. But standing here arguing with me isn't going to bring Lisa home.
I swallowed hard. As much as I wanted to fight, he was right. I grabbed my phone. Let's go. The police station. The station smelled like old coffee and paperwork. Officers moved around in crisp uniforms, voices low and serious. Harry and I sat across from a stern-faced officer as I explained everything. She left last night, I said, my voice tight. We've tried calling, texting, nothing. The officer, a stocky man with tired eyes, scribbled something on his notepad.
Has she ever run away before?
I shook my head. Never.
Any history of trouble, drugs, bad influences?
I hesitated. I found her with pills. The officer's eyebrows lifted slightly.
What kind?
She was taking controlling pills. I exhaled. I got scared. I yelled at her. She stormed out. The officer nodded, jotting something down. My throat tightened. I shouldn't have lost my temper. Maybe if I hadn't. The officer looked up.
Ma'am, this isn't your fault. You are just taking care of your young girl.
My gaze snapped to his.
You disciplined your daughter for something concerning. That's not a crime. What is a crime is a 16-year-old being missing for more than 12 hours with no contact.
He leaned forward.
We're taking this seriously.
I swallowed hard, gripping my hands together. Harry sat stiffly beside me, silent.
We'll put out an alert.
The officer continued.
We'll start asking around, checking surveillance. But I need to ask, does she have anywhere she might go? Friends? A boyfriend?
I blinked. A boyfriend? Lisa hadn't mentioned anyone. Had I missed that too? I don't know, I admitted. The officer nodded.
We'll find her.
I wanted to believe him. The sun was high when we stepped out of the station. The world outside felt different, louder, harsher. Every passing car, every person walking by, it all felt wrong. Lisa should have been here. Harry walked ahead, muttering something about work calls. I barely heard him. My mind was stuck in an endless loop of where is she, where is she, where is she? And then I saw him. Chris. I froze mid-step. He was walking down the street, hands in his pockets, looking almost exactly the same. Still tall, still effortlessly handsome, still carrying himself like he had all the time in the world. His hair had more silver in it now, but it suited him, and just as I was about to convince myself, I was hallucinating. He turned, our eyes met, and just like that, I was 20 again, standing in a college hallway, stealing glances at the boy who never noticed me. But this time, he did notice me. A slow grin spread across his face, his eyes lighting up with recognition.
Elora?
My breath caught. Before I could say anything, he was already crossing the street toward me.
Wow.
He stopped a few feet away, looking me over.
I can't believe it's you.
I let out a shaky laugh. I was just thinking the same thing.
You look great.
I knew he was being kind. I hadn't slept, hadn't brushed my hair, hadn't even changed from last night's clothes, but the way he said it made me believe it anyway. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice softer.
Work.
He shrugged.
Just moved back a few months ago.
I blinked. Moved back? He smiled.
Guess I couldn't stay away forever.
I tried to smile back, but my face wouldn't cooperate. Chris frowned slightly.
Hey, are you okay?
And just like that, the wall cracked. My daughter is missing. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Chris's face changed instantly, his easygoing warmth replaced with sharp focus.
Missing?
I nodded, my throat tight. He didn't ask stupid questions. He didn't waste time with, oh my God, that's horrible, or I'm so sorry. He just held my gaze, and then he said,
Tell me everything?
I did, right there on the sidewalk. I told him everything. Lisa, the fight, the pills, the way she had walked out and never come back. I told him how the police were involved now, but it wasn't enough. How I felt like I was standing in the middle of a storm with no way out. Chris listened, really listened, and then when I was done, he did something I never expected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a badge, a detective's badge. I stared at it, then at him. You're...
Government detective.
He confirmed.
And I'm taking this case personally.
I blinked, the weight of his words sinking in. Chris was back. And for the first time since Lisa went missing, I had hope. Chris showed up at my house faster than I expected. I barely had time to straighten myself before he was standing on my doorstep, his expression unreadable. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. He didn't waste time with small talk. As soon as I shut the door, he turned to face me.
Elora,
His voice was firm, measured.
Lisa isn't missing.
The room felt like it shifted under my feet. "What?" My throat went dry.
She's been taken.
The words didn't make sense. They couldn't. I stared at him, waiting for some kind of clarification, some way for him to explain that he didn't mean what he just said. But he did. I gripped the back of the couch, my nails pressing into the fabric. "Number that's not... Chris, no. She ran away. She was angry. Chris stepped closer.
Elora, listen to me.
I shook my head. "No, you listen to me. Lisa isn't... She's not." Chris reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A watch, Lisa's watch, and then a small bundle of fabric. Her jacket. I felt my breath catch as he placed them gently on the coffee table.
I found these in the woods near the back roads past Audrey Lane.
His voice was softer now, but it didn't make his words any easier to hear.
This wasn't just a runaway situation.
I dropped onto the couch, my hands trembling as I touched the jacket. It was cold, like it had been out there for a while. Chris crouched in front of me.
Elora, I need you to understand. This is serious. Lisa didn't just leave. She was angry. She went outside by herself, but after that, she had been taken somewhere for sure.
I swallowed, forcing myself to breathe. Who would do this? Chris shook his head.
I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out.
I looked up at him. His eyes were steady, unwavering. "I need you to find her," I whispered.
I will.
He promised. "Telling Harry." Harry was pacing when I found him. I hadn't even realized he was home, but there he was on his phone, talking business as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Harry," I called. He held up a hand, still talking. "Harry," I snapped. He finally turned, annoyance flickering across his face.
Elora, can't this wait?
"No, it can't." I took a shaky breath. Chris was here. His expression darkened at the mention of Chris's name, but I didn't care. "He found Lisa's things in the woods." My voice cracked. "She didn't just run away, Harry. She was taken." His face went pale.
What?
"She's in danger." I clutched Lisa's jacket against me. And all this time, while we thought she was just being rebellious, she was out there, alone, scared. Harry rubbed a hand over his face.
Jesus.
I wanted him to say more, to show more emotion, to grab his keys and say, "Let's go find her." But he didn't. He just stood there, staring at the floor, his mind somewhere else. I let out a bitter laugh. "You don't even know what to do you?"
Elora,
My phone rang. I jumped, nearly dropping it as I scrambled to answer. "Lisa." My breath caught. Lisa, where are you?"
Mom.
Her voice was weak, shaky. My legs nearly gave out. "Lisa, baby, are you okay? Where are you? Who's with you?" Her breath hitched.
I'm in trouble.
I gripped the phone tighter. "I know, sweetheart. Tell me where you are." The line went dead. No. I tried calling back, straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type as I called Chris. He answered on the first ring.
Elora,
"She called." My voice broke. "Lisa called."
what did she say?
"She said she's in trouble," and then the call cut. I was already pacing, my mind racing. "Chris, she sounded scared. We have to..."
I'm already on it.
I heard typing in the background.
I'm tracking the number.
I forced myself to breathe. "Tell me when you find something." Minutes stretched painfully as I listened to Chris work. Then...
Got it.
His voice was tense.
The call was made near the deep forest past Audrey Lane.
Audrey Lane, the same place he found her things. A chill crept down my spine. I'm going there.
No, you're not.
Chris's voice was firm.
Let me handle this.
She's my daughter.
And I'm a trained investigator.
I don't care. Chris let out a slow breath.
Elora, if you go storming in there without knowing what we're up against, you could make things worse. Trust me on this.
Tears burned my eyes. I can't just sit here.
You won't have to.
His voice softened just slightly.
I'll find her, and I'll bring her home.
The line went dead, and I was left standing in the middle of my living room, trapped in the worst kind of waiting game. Chris called just as I was pacing the living room. My phone clutched so tightly in my hand it felt like an extension of my own body.
I'm heading to Audrey Lane.
He said, his voice low and urgent.
Now.
I'm coming.
Elora.
I'm coming. I grabbed my keys off the counter. Don't even try to stop me. There was a pause and then he sighed.
Fine, but you cannot tell anyone that I have a lead.
I hesitated. Why?
I can't explain over the phone.
My grip on the keys tightened. Chris?
I can't.
He repeated more firmly this time.
Just meet me there.
I swallowed the lump in my throat. Give me 15 minutes. I had never been a good liar, but tonight I didn't have a choice. Harry was still on his laptop, caught up in whatever work crisis was currently ruining his life. He didn't even glance up when I walked into the room. I'm going to a friend's house, I said, keeping my voice as even as possible.
Okay.
Harry muttered. I clenched my jaw. He didn't even ask which friend. Not that it mattered. I was already stepping out the door before he could change his mind about caring. Chris was waiting in his car just off the main road near Audrey Lane. I spotted him instantly, leaning against the hood of his black SUV, his arms crossed. Even in the dim streetlight, he still looked the same, sharp, focused, like nothing in the world could shake him. As soon as I parked, I got out and walked straight up to him. Tell me. He studied me for a second before speaking.
I saw a woman.
My stomach flipped. What woman?
She had Lisa's phone.
The world tilted. What? My voice came out hoarse. Chris glanced around before continuing.
I saw her leaving a supply store near the outskirts of town. She was holding Lisa's phone in her hand, checking it like it was hers.
I sucked in a breath. Did you confront her?
I followed her.
My pulse raced. And?
She works at a building inside the forest near Audrey Lane. A secret building.
My brows furrowed. Secret? What does that mean? Chris's jaw tensed.
It means it's off the records. No official listings, no signage, nothing. Just a massive facility hidden where no one would think to look.
Lisa is inside that building?
I don't know yet.
Chris exhaled.
But I do know that woman had her phone, which means she's involved.
Then arrest her. Chris let out a humorless laugh.
I can't. I have no legal ground. That building is highly classified, and I'd need government clearance to even step on the property.
I clenched my fist. Then get clearance. His expression darkened.
That would take hours.
I shook my head. Lisa doesn't have days. Chris hesitated. Then, in a quieter voice, he said,
That's why I'm going in tonight.
A shiver ran through me. Tonight?
Midnight.
His voice was final.
No permits. No waiting around.
I stared at him. He wasn't joking. You're going in alone? I asked.
Yes.
I took a step forward. No, you're not. Chris stiffened.
Elora.
She's my daughter. I met his gaze unflinching. I'm going. His lips pressed into a thin line. You can't stop me, I said. A long silence stretched between us. Then finally, Chris exhaled.
Then you better be ready.
The house was locked from the inside. I frowned. That wasn't unusual. Harry sometimes bolted it when he worked late, but something about it didn't sit right tonight. I slipped my key into the lock, twisting it slowly. The door clicked open and I stepped in, setting my bag down near the entrance. That's when I saw them, a pair of women's sandals, not mine. The air stilled around me. I stared at them, my breath caught in my throat. They were delicate, strappy, too stylish for Lisa, and too small. A sharp prickle ran down my arms. I slid off my own shoes, setting them down noiselessly. My feet felt cold against the hardwood floor as I moved forward, each step slow, deliberate. My heartbeat drummed in my ears as I followed an invisible trail toward the bedroom. Then I heard it, a soft sound, barely audible at first, then another, a moan, a gasp. I stopped in my tracks, every muscle locking up. The sounds grew louder, more urgent. My hands trembled as I reached the bedroom door, pressing my palm against it. My breath hitched, and before I could stop myself, I leaned forward, just enough to peer through the keyhole, and my world shattered. Inside, under the dim glow of the bedside lamp, Harry lay sprawled across our bed, his hands gripping the curves of a woman on top of him. She moved against him with ease, her skin bare, her back arched. Her blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders in waves, framing her flushed face. Frida! It was Frida. She wasn't just with him, she was consumed by him. The way she moved, the way she moaned, it wasn't new, it wasn't hesitant. It was familiar. This wasn't a mistake, this wasn't a lapse in judgment. This had been happening. I sucked in a sharp breath, my throat closing up. My knees buckled and I pressed my hand against the doorframe to steady myself. The floor beneath me felt like quicksand, pulling me down, swallowing me whole. I wanted to burst into the room, to scream, to throw something, to tear the sheets off them and demand why. But my body didn't move. Instead, I backed away, step by step, until the hallway blurred before me. My eyes burned, my chest ached, and I pressed my fist against my mouth to silence the sob clawing its way up my throat. Had I been this blind? Had I always been this disposable to him? I staggered out of the house into the night air. My legs carried me away, but I didn't know where I was going. I sank onto a bench near the sidewalk, my hands trembling as I wiped my face. My fingers came away wet, though I barely registered the tears that had fallen. A couple walked past me, their laughter light and careless. A car honked in the distance. The world moved on, completely unaware that my marriage had just collapsed in the span of a few seconds. I let out a shaky breath and stared at my reflection in a nearby puddle. My dark hair was frizzy from the night air, my makeup smudged. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. My hands curled into fists in my lap. Am I unattractive? I whispered, my voice barely audible. The question sliced through me like a blade. I had never been attractive, never had the kind of body Frida had, the effortless, hourglass figure that men gravitated toward. I had curves, yes, but they weren't the kind that stopped traffic. They were the kind people politely ignored. Had that been it all along? I sucked in a breath, forcing myself to straighten my shoulders. This wasn't about my body. This was about him, about them. A cold, hard truth settled in my chest. Harry had already left me. Long before tonight, I just hadn't wanted to see it. I wiped my face one last time and lifted my chin. I had a daughter to find. And Harry? Harry could rot in his own damn bed. I gripped my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I pressed Chris's number. The night air was cool, but I still felt heat because of the incident, my skin sticky from the emotions that had twisted inside me for the past hour. I didn't even remember walking this far from my house. My mind had been lost somewhere between anger, sadness, and a desperate need to be anywhere but there. Chris picked up on the second ring.
Elora?
His voice was alert, steady. I need to see you. There was a short pause.
Right now?
Yes,
All right, I'm coming to your place.
Chris said, and I replied, No, I am coming to your place.
Okay.
Chris said. I stepped towards Chris's place. Chris lived in a small house on the quieter side of town, tucked between rows of older homes with warm porch lights and sleepy streets. I had never been here before. I'd always imagined him with a family. A wife, kids, maybe even a dog running up to greet him at the door. But when he opened it and I stepped inside, I realized I had been wrong. There were no family pictures on the walls, no signs of a woman's touch, no extra pair of shoes near the entrance, no scattered toys or the soft messiness that came with children. Chris had never married. I wasn't sure why that surprised me. Maybe because he was the kind of man people wanted to be around. He had always been confident, charming, easygoing in a way that made others feel at ease. I had thought someone would have claimed him by now. He closed the door behind me and studied my face.
You okay?
I forced a small smile. I've had better nights. His eyes softened.
Is it about Lisa?
I hesitated, then I lied. Yes. Chris motioned toward the couch.
Sit. You look like you need coffee or something stronger.
I don't think anything stronger is a good idea right now. He gave me a half smile and disappeared into the kitchen, returning with 2 mugs.
Coffee.
I took the warm mug in my hands, letting the heat seep into my fingers. Chris sat down across from me, stretching his legs out comfortably.
You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, Elle.
I swallowed hard. I feel like it. He exhaled, rubbing his jaw.
You know, I was thinking about college the other day. You remember that one professor, Mr. Talbot?
I let out a small laugh. The one who always wore suspenders 2 sizes too tight? Chris grinned.
Yes, him. Man, he hated me.
You deserved it, I teased. You once turned in a paper 2 weeks late and tried to convince him that you had emailed it, but technology failed you. Chris chuckled.
Hey, that was a solid excuse back then.
I shook my head. No, it wasn't. He leaned forward, his smile fading just a little.
I miss those days. Things were simpler then.
I stared into my coffee. Yeah, they were. Chris studied me for a long moment, then said quietly,
I know you, Elora. This isn't just about Lisa.
I tensed.
Look, I'm not going to push,
He continued.
but if you ever need to talk about whatever else is making you look like you've just been through hell, I'm here.
Something about his words, his tone, made my throat tighten, but I couldn't tell him, not now. I forced a small smile. Thanks, Chris. He gave a little shake of his head.
Come on. I didn't invite you here just to let you sit there all sad. I have a job to do. My mission tonight is to convince you that life isn't completely falling apart.
Chris leaned back, stretching his arms behind his head.
I'm up for the challenge.
There was something comforting about him, something steady. I hadn't realized how much I had missed this. Talking, laughing, feeling like myself, instead of just being a wife, a mother, a woman constantly trying to hold everything together. He took a sip of his coffee.
You know, people always ask me why I never settled down.
I tilted my head. And? Chris smirked.
I tell them I'm too much of a free spirit.
I rolled my eyes. That's such a Chris answer. He laughed.
Fine. The truth? I guess I was waiting for the right person. And somewhere along the way, life just happened.
There was something in his expression, something unspoken. And for the briefest moment I wondered, had I ever been that person for him? Before I could say anything, Chris set his mug down and looked at the clock.
Time to go.
Chris started the car, the engine humming in the quiet of the night. I buckled my seatbelt, my fingers gripping my jacket as we pulled onto the road. The streets were empty, the only light coming from street lamps, casting long shadows across the pavement. We didn't speak for a while. The road stretched ahead of us, leading to something unknown, something dangerous. Finally, Chris broke the silence.
You know, Lisa loves you, right?
I swallowed. Of course.
No, I mean really loves you.
He glanced at me.
Kids, they mess up. They get angry. But at the end of the day, she knows you're her mom. And no matter how bad things seem right now, you and I, we're going to fix this.
His words settled something inside me. Thank you, Chris. He smiled slightly.
For what?
For just being here. He tapped his fingers against the wheel.
Well, somebody's got to keep you out of trouble.
A few minutes later, we reached the deep forest near Audrey Lane. The trees loomed ahead, dark and silent, their twisted branches curling against the night sky. Chris slowed the car and parked a short distance away from a barely visible structure hidden in the trees. He cut the engine and exhaled.
This is it.
I peered through the windshield. The building was shrouded in darkness, barely visible behind thick brush. It looked like something that shouldn't exist. Secret, dangerous. Chris turned to me.
Elora, listen. I don't want you going in there.
I stiffened. Excuse me?
It's too risky.
He leaned in slightly, his voice firm.
This isn't some abandoned warehouse we can sneak into. This is government-level secrecy. I don't even know what we're dealing with yet.
I squared my shoulders. Chris, my daughter might be in there.
I know, and that's why I need you to stay in the car. If something happens to me, you can get help.
I let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. Oh, so you get to be the hero, and I just sit here waiting for bad news? Not happening. He exhaled sharply.
Elora.
No. I locked eyes with him. If you're going in, I'm going in. We stared at each other, the weight of our unspoken fears thick between us. Finally, Chris gave a slow, resigned sigh.
You're impossible.
I crossed my arms. And his lips twitched.
And I guess I should have expected this.
I smirked. You should have. Chris ran a hand through his hair, then looked toward the building.
All right, Elora, let's do this.
And with that, we stepped into the unknown. Chris pushed open the rusted door and we stepped inside. At first, the place looked empty. Too empty. The dim light flickered weakly from old fixtures overhead, casting long, distorted shadows on the cracked concrete floor. The walls were bare. Chris glanced at me.
Looks abandoned.
I wasn't convinced. There was something wrong about this place. A strange stillness. We moved cautiously, our footsteps light. The sound of dripping water echoed from somewhere deeper inside, making it feel even more desolate. Then, a sound. Faint but unmistakable. A shuffle. Chris stopped abruptly and I followed his gaze. Movement, and then too much movement. Out of nowhere, shadows peeled away from the walls, materializing into figures. People, a lot of them. Before we could react, they surged toward us. Chris spun around, pulling me behind him, but it was too late. Strong hands grabbed my arms, rough fingers tightening around my wrists. Chris struggled against them, his voice sharp.
I'm a detective.
He barked.
Let me go.
No one listened. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a cold stare, stepped forward. His uniform was different, more tactical. A leader.
Shut up and move. This is a rehab center of government. Nobody's allowed here. We bring here abnormal people.
He ordered. Chris's jaw clenched.
Listen to me.
A sharp shove cut him off. The grip on my arms tightened and my breath caught. This wasn't some normal security patrol. These men knew something. They weren't here by accident. Chris met my eyes, and for the first time since we'd entered, I saw something I'd never seen in him before. Uncertainty, but then chaos, a loud crash, a scream, then another, and suddenly, panic. The guards who had captured us jerked their heads toward the hallway. More people burst through doors, flooding into the room. Not guards, civilians. Some wore lab coats, others looked like workers. Their faces were twisted with fear as they ran, shoving past one another in a frantic rush. Something was very wrong. The man gripping me hesitated for just a second, his hold loosening. That was all it took. A scientist, young, glasses slipping down his nose, stumbled forward, his eyes wild.
Run!
He shouted again.
Run!
The guards turned to each other, confused. The guard said,
Please go that way near the exit.
It was clear now that these people weren't that bad as we thought they would be. But then what was bad? Chris didn't waste a second. He yanked me forward.
Let's go!
We didn't need to be told twice. The guards didn't even try to stop us. They were too distracted, too busy looking toward whatever horror had sent people sprinting toward the exits. Chris and I ran, the hallway blurred as we pushed through the crowd, the sound of panicked footsteps and terrified cries echoing around us. My pulse roared in my ears, my legs burned, but I didn't stop. The exit, just ahead. Chris grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the doors. We burst outside. The night air hit my face like a slap, cold and shocking. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath. Chris bent over, hands on his knees. What the hell? A sound cut him off. A low growl, something primal, something not human. Chris and I froze. I turned my head slowly toward the noise, and then I saw it. A creature stepped into the dim light, its massive form moving with a raw animalistic power. Thick fur covered its body, dark as ink except for streaks of lighter patches along its arms. Its limbs were long, muscular, but the most terrifying thing, the eyes, yellow, glowing, fixed right on us. My breath caught. Chris grabbed my arm and yanked me backward into the tall grass. We crouched low, barely breathing. The creature stalked forward, its claws digging into the dirt with each step. Its ears twitched, nostrils flaring, searching. It was looking for something, or someone. I pressed a hand against my mouth. Chris didn't move, didn't breathe. The wolf, because what else could it be, paused. It lifted its head, sniffing the air, and then it vanished, just disappeared into the shadows. Chris exhaled.
What was that?
I don't know, I whispered. We stayed hidden for another minute, waiting, listening. Silence. I swallowed hard. I think it's gone. Chris hesitated, then gave a short nod.
All right. We move fast. We stay low. We get to the car.
A twig cracked behind us. Chris whipped around. A roar, then pain, a flash of claws, a force so powerful it sent me flying. My body slammed into the ground, the impact knocking the air from my lungs. Chris hit the dirt beside me with a grunt. A sharp, stinging pain bloomed along my arm. My sleeve was shredded, dark warmth soaking into the fabric. I gasped. The creature loomed over us. Its lips curled, revealing teeth as long as my fingers, gleaming under the moonlight. It lowered its head, staring right at me. It was going to strike. It was going to dash. And then it stopped. Its breath came in deep, heavy pulls. Its yellow eyes locked onto mine, and something changed. The rage in its face melted into something else. Its ears flattened slightly. The growl softened, and I didn't move, I didn't blink. The wolf took a slow step back. Then another, and then It bowed, a deep, low movement, almost respectful. Then it turned and walked away. I stared after it, stunned. Chris groaned beside me, pushing himself up.
Did that thing just...
The wolf paused, turning back one last time, and then it howled, a long, echoing sound that sent a chill straight through my bones. And then, just like that, it was gone. The cuts on my arms stung with every step, and Chris had a slight limp, but we weren't stopping. We were going back to the building, back to the place where Chris had said Lisa was. Even if my body ached and my skin still crawled from that wolf's stare, I had to know. Lisa had been missing too long. Chris walked beside me, his face tense, his jaw tight. He hadn't said much since we left the bushes, but his mind was running. I could see it. He was working through something, trying to piece it together like a puzzle with missing corners. The road to the building stretched in front of us, empty now. The earlier chaos had died down, but something about the silence made me even more uneasy. When we reached the entrance, I hesitated. The door was wide open. Chris and I exchanged a glance before stepping inside, and then the screams started. People were still inside. I hadn't expected that. Men and women in lab coats rushed back and forth, shouting, carrying papers, moving like ants from a disturbed hill. Others, patients, stood in corners, whispering to themselves or rocking back and forth. It wasn't panic exactly. It was fear. Fear of something that wasn't us. I stepped forward, catching the sleeve of a woman who was darting past. Her eyes were wide, darting left and right like she was expecting something to jump at her. "Please," I said, "I'm looking for my daughter, Lisa. Have you seen her?" The woman stiffened, her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She knew. I could see it. "Lisa," I said again. "She's 16, brown hair, dark eyes. She was supposed to be here." The woman yanked her arm away like I'd burned her and backed up, shaking her head, and then she ran. Chris took a step toward her, but she disappeared down a hallway. I turned to the others. "Please, where is Lisa?" Nobody answered, but they reacted. Some backed away, some whispered, and some stared at me. Not with curiosity, not with sympathy, but with fear. They were afraid of me, like I was dangerous. My stomach tightened, a strange, uneasy feeling twisting through my chest. Chris exhaled sharply beside me.
Something's not right.
I looked at him.
We need to check the rooms.
I wasn't going to argue. We moved quickly through the hallways, opening doors, peering inside. Empty. Some rooms had beds, others had chairs bolted to the floors. Some had thick straps attached to them. I swallowed hard. "Chris," I said quietly, "this isn't just a building." Chris ran a hand through his hair.
It's a rehab center.
I frowned. He motioned around us.
Look at it. It's not a hospital. It's not a regular clinic. This place is for kids, for teenagers.
He wasn't wrong. The rooms weren't just medical. They looked lived in. I stepped inside one, my fingers brushing the edge of a worn-out book sitting on a table.
Rehabilitation for mentally ill and emotionally disturbed teenagers.
Chris murmured, reading from a plaque near the door. My breath caught. Lisa wasn't mentally ill. Lisa wasn't disturbed, so why would she be here? Chris met my eyes, his face serious.
I don't think she was.
I clenched my fists. Then where is she? We searched for another hour. Nothing, not a single clue. Lisa had never been here, or if she had, she wasn't here now. The walk back home felt longer than it should have. My body was running on empty and my mind was worse. Chris walked beside me, quiet, thinking. He'd always been a thinker, even in college. He wouldn't say anything until he knew what he wanted to say. But I didn't want silence. I needed answers. We climbed up the porch steps, my hands shaking as I fumbled for the door. And then I saw her, Lisa, sitting at the kitchen table, eating snacks, drinking coffee, like nothing had happened. My legs nearly gave out. Lisa? She turned, blinking, and then she was running straight into my arms. I wrapped my arms around her, gripping her like she'd disappear again. Her hair smelled like home, her body warm against mine. I felt her shaking, and I realized so was I. I pulled back, cupping her face. Where were you? My voice was a mix of relief and frustration. Lisa, I've been looking for you all day. She wiped her nose, looking guilty.
I got lost.
Lost? I repeated. She bit her lip.
I was in the forest. I couldn't get out.
Chris stepped forward.
Lisa, we thought you were in trouble. We went looking for you. We found a building.
Lisa's head snapped up.
What building?
A rehab center. I watched her carefully. Lisa, did you?
I wasn't there.
She said quickly, but her nervousness was showcased clearly. Something about the way she said it sent a chill through me. I inhaled deeply. Lisa, we searched for you. We were even attacked. Lisa's eyes widened.
Attacked?
Chris crossed his arms.
By a werewolf.
Lisa flinched. I caught it. So did Chris. Lisa stared at the floor. Silence, and I took a shaky breath. Lisa, please just tell me the truth.
I was angry.
She said quietly.
I shouldn't have stormed out like that. I got lost, and I was scared, and...
She swallowed.
I'm sorry, Mom.
I let out a slow breath. Then I pulled her into another hug. I didn't know if she was telling the whole truth, but for now, she was safe, and that was all that mattered. An invitation. Chris cleared his throat.
All right. Enough mystery for one day.
I pulled back from Lisa, wiping at my face. What does that mean? Chris smirked.
It means we all need something normal, something fun. My nephew's birthday party is tomorrow. You're coming.
Lisa brightened.
Oh, a party.
Chris grinned.
Cake, ice cream, balloons, the whole deal.
I exhaled, shaking my head. Chris, after everything that just happened...
Exactly.
He cut in.
After everything that just happened, you both need a break.
Lisa looked at me hopefully, and for the first time all day, I let myself smile. All right, I said, let's go to a party. The door swung open with a bang. Harry. I barely had time to exhale before he stepped inside, his shoes tapping hard against the floor. His eyes swept over Lisa first, and for a split second I saw something genuine, a flicker of relief.
Lisa.
His voice was gruff, but there was an unmistakable softness underneath.
You're back.
Lisa hesitated, then gave him a small nod.
Yeah.
That was all he got. No hug, no warmth, just that one word. Harry's lips pressed into a thin line. His gaze shifted, landing on me for only a second before flicking over to Chris, who was just slipping on his jacket near the door. And just like that, whatever warmth had been in Harry's face was gone. His eyes darkened, his shoulders squared. Chris, completely unfazed, turned to me.
I'll see you tomorrow, Elora. Lisa, you too.
Lisa smiled.
See you?
But Harry? Harry was watching him like a dog watching a stranger step too close to his food. Chris must have felt it because he barely glanced at Harry before walking out. The door clicked shut. A sharp silence followed. Then Harry scoffed, loud.
Unbelievable.
I braced myself. What is? Harry let out a bitter laugh.
The man practically lives here now. What, does he have his own key too?
I crossed my arms. Chris was helping me look for our daughter, something you didn't bother to do.
Helping, huh?
His tone was sharp, slicing straight through my words. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on mine.
So, tell me, Alora, while he was helping, did you two take breaks to roll around in bed?
I froze. Lisa jerked her head toward him, her face twisting in shock. Excuse me. My voice came out louder than I expected, steady but laced with something dangerous.
You heard me?
Harry's lip curled.
How long has this been going on? You two sneaking around, whispering like some damn teenagers?
Lisa's chair scraped against the floor as she shot to her feet.
Dad, what is wrong with you?
Harry didn't even glance at her. His eyes were on me, sharp, dissecting.
It's not a crazy question, Lisa. Your mother's been parading him around like
what? I snapped.
Like he belongs here.
I sucked in a slow breath, gripping the edge of the table. Chris is my friend. Harry barked out a humorless laugh.
Oh, please, spare me the innocent act. I know you, Alora. You were never some quiet, shy little thing, were you? No, you were probably just as wild before we even got married.
The words hit like a slap. Lisa's face turned red.
What the hell does that mean?
Harry smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes.
It means your mother wasn't exactly...
If you finish that sentence, Harry, I swear. Harry leaned back, folding his arms.
Tell me something, Alora. You weren't even pure when we got married, were you?
Silence. It was the kind of silence that sucked the air out of the room, made every breath feel too loud. I stared at him, barely able to process that he'd actually said that. I was pure, but he was blaming on me that I wasn't. Then I found my voice. I was, I said sharply. Don't you dare say otherwise. Harry tilted his head like he was sizing me up. Like he didn't believe me. Like he had the right to judge. Lisa slammed her hand on the table.
What the hell is wrong with you, Dad?
Harry's head snapped toward her, caught off guard. Lisa took a step forward, eyes blazing.
You don't get to sit here and talk about my mother like that. You have no right to throw things like that in her face.
Harry's expression hardened.
I am still her husband.
Lisa scoffed.
Really? Because you sure don't act like it.
Harry's jaw twitched.
Watch your tone, young lady.
No, you watch your tone.
Lisa fired back.
You're sitting here throwing disgusting accusations at my mom, but what about you?
Harry's nostrils flared.
What about me?
Lisa didn't hesitate.
What about your affairs?
She snapped.
You're acting like you're some saint, but we know what you've done.
The room went still. Harry's face changed. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. A crack. Then he recovered, his shoulders squared, his lips curled into a cold smirk.
Oh, so now I'm the bad guy. That's rich.
Lisa crossed her arms.
If the shoe fits.
Harry's face darkened, and then just like that, his anger exploded.
I have never done anything wrong in my life.
He shouted. Lisa clenched her fists.
Say that again. Say it again, Dad. Say it with a straight face.
Harry turned to me, his face twisted with something bitter.
And you?
He spat.
You sit here, letting our daughter talk to me like this? Like I'm the one ruining this family?
I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The truth was staring him in the face, and he didn't like it. Harry shook his head, disgusted.
I'm done with this.
And just like that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo rattled through the house. Lisa let out a slow breath, her hands trembling. I watched the door for a long moment, listening to the sound of his car peeling out of the driveway. Then finally I exhaled. Lisa turned to me, her face still red with anger.
Mom,
She said, voice softer now.
are you okay?
I swallowed the lump in my throat. I forced a small, tired smile. Come on, I said, let's clean this up. Lisa didn't argue. She just followed me into the kitchen, the sound of dishes clinking filling the silence Harry had left behind. Lisa sat curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, her hair still damp from a shower. She looked comfortable, relaxed even, but I knew better. There was something in the way she avoided my eyes, the way her fingers moved a little too fast on the screen. I took a deep breath. I had to do this carefully. "Lisa," I said, settling into the chair across from her. "We need to talk." Her fingers froze mid-scroll. She glanced up.
About?
I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "The pills!" Her expression barely changed, but I caught the slight shift in her shoulders, the way she suddenly seemed more alert. She locked her phone and set it aside.
What about them?
I didn't break eye contact. I need to know what's going on. She exhaled slowly, tucking her legs underneath her.
Okay,
She said,
but you have to promise you won't freak out.
that never led to good news. "I'll listen," I said. "That's a promise." Lisa bit her lip as if deciding where to start. Then she said,
There's this guy.
I stayed quiet. "His name is Robin," she continued, her voice softening.
He's different. He transferred to my school a few months ago, and I don't know, Mom. It's like I was just drawn to him. He's amazing.
Her whole face changed as she spoke. There was a light in her eyes, a kind of quiet happiness that I hadn't seen in a long time.
He's smart, kind. He actually listens to me.
A small smile tugged at her lips.
And he's gorgeous, Mom. Like, ridiculously good-looking. The kind of guy you see in movies and think, yeah, right, no one looks like that in real life. But he does.
I stayed silent, letting her talk.
I don't know how it happened, but we just clicked. He makes me feel safe, you know? Like he actually cares. And it's not just talk. He shows it. He makes sure I eat when I forget. He waits for me after class. He remembers the little things I tell him.
Her fingers curled around the edge of the couch.
I love him.
I stared at her with calm smile on my face. Well, I was not actually that much calm, but I didn't showcase it. She was only 16. "Lisa," I started, but she shook her head.
I know what you're going to say.
That I'm too young, that I don't understand real love yet.
But I do, Mom. I do.
She hesitated, then sighed.
And before you ask, yes, I've been sleeping with him.
I felt the weight of those words settle in the air between us. I already knew it because I had already saw Lisa. Talking pills, but hearing from Lisa about that was more heavy. Lisa swallowed.
I know you won't like that. I know it's not what you wanted for me, but it's not a mistake. It's not some stupid fling. I love him, and I trust him.
I let out a slow breath. "Lisa," I said carefully, "I'm not mad." She blinked.
You're not?
I shook my head, number. "But I am concerned, not because of Robin, but because you need to be careful. Your choices are yours to make, but that also means you have to live with the consequences." Lisa's shoulders relaxed a little.
I know, and I will.
For a moment we just sat there, the tension easing slightly. But then Lisa frowned, glancing down at her hands.
There's something else.
She admitted.
Something weird.
I sat up straighter. "What is it?"
It's my body.
A chill prickled the back of my neck. "Your body?" She shifted uncomfortably.
It's been changing since I started sleeping with him. At first, I thought I was just imagining things, but every time I'm with him, I feel different.
"Different how?" Lisa played with the edge of her sleeve like she was trying to find the right words.
Sometimes I feel energized, like I could run a marathon without stopping. Other times, I feel drained, weak, like all the strength has been sucked out of me. But then, after a few hours, I feel stronger than before. It's like my body resets, but not to how it was before. Better.
I stared at her. She wasn't joking. She wasn't exaggerating. She genuinely believed what she was saying. Lisa, I started, but she shook her head.
I don't know what it means, Mom, but it's real. I feel it.
I took a slow breath, processing. And you're sure this only started after you met Robin?
Yeah, pretty much.
A silence stretched between us, and then she sighed.
Look, I won't sleep with him again if you don't want me to.
I frowned. Lisa, this isn't about that. She blinked.
It's not?
I shook my head. Number, you're old enough to make your own choices. I just want you to be careful. Lisa watched me for a long moment, then nodded slowly.
Okay,
She said.
I will.
I reached over and squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. For now, that was enough. I woke up early, stretching as the first hints of daylight crept through the blinds. Something felt off. I wasn't sure what, but there was an uneasiness in my chest that I couldn't shake. I pushed off the covers and stepped into the hallway. Lisa's door was open. A frown tugged at my lips. I knocked lightly. Lisa? No answer. I stepped inside. Her bed was empty. My stomach clenched. Lisa? I called again, louder this time. Silence. I searched the entire house, bathroom, kitchen, even the backyard. Nothing. Then, just as I was about to check the front porch, something else caught my eye. A small, unmoving shape under Lisa's bed. I crouched down, pulling it out. A dead rat in Lisa's room. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed my phone and called Chris. He picked up on the second ring.
Elora?
Lisa's gone, I said, keeping my voice steady. I don't know where she is. Chris was quiet for a moment. Then he said,
She'll be fine. If she doesn't come back soon, call me again. We'll figure it out.
I hung up, staring at the rat in my hands. What the hell was going on? Minutes later, the front door creaked open. I turned sharply. Lisa walked in, looking perfectly normal, dressed in leggings and a hoodie, her hair pulled into a ponytail, earphones in her ears. Lisa, my voice was sharper than I intended. She blinked at me.
What?
Where were you?
I went for a walk.
A walk? She shrugged.
Yeah, just a morning walk. Why?
I exhaled, trying to steady myself. You should have told me. Lisa gave me a small smile.
I'm sorry. I didn't think it'd be a big deal.
I studied her. She looked normal, calm, but something wasn't right. Something wasn't right at all. The evening sun painted golden streaks across the walls as I stood in the kitchen, stirring a cup of coffee that I wasn't really planning to drink. Lisa sat on the counter, swinging her legs, her phone in one hand and an apple in the other. She had that relaxed, carefree look teenagers carried so effortlessly, completely unaware of how rare that kind of freedom became with age. I glanced at her. Chris invited us to a birthday party. Are you coming? Lisa took a loud bite of her apple.
Nah, I'm going out with friends.
I set the spoon down. Where? She shrugged.
Just out. We might grab dinner, maybe see a movie.
I narrowed my eyes. Lisa. She grinned.
Mom.
I sighed. Just be careful, okay? No wandering off alone, and if something feels off, trust your gut. Lisa smiled, chewing.
Relax, Mom. I won't run off into the night with a mysterious stranger.
That didn't ease me as much as she thought it would, but I let it go. I glanced at the clock. Harry still wasn't home, not that I expected him to be. Fine. If he wasn't going to bother being around, I wasn't going to sit here waiting like a loyal dog. I was going to that party. Alone. Upstairs, I flipped through my closet, pulling out dress after dress, only to toss them back. Too simple, too tight, too boring. Then my fingers brushed against something silky. I pulled it out. The red dress. It had been years since I last wore it, maybe even a decade. The color was rich, bold, confident. The neckline dipped just enough to hint at something, but not enough to be vulgar. The fabric hugged my waist in a way that made me feel alive. I held it up against myself, staring at the mirror. For a moment I hesitated. Mothers weren't supposed to wear dresses like this. Married women weren't supposed to either. But why? Who made that rule? Harry didn't care what I wore. He didn't care if I was in a potato sack or a ball gown. He had made it very clear that I could set myself on fire, and he wouldn't even bother warming his hands. I exhaled slowly. I wasn't doing this for Harry. I wasn't doing this for Chris either. I was doing this for me. I slipped the dress on. The woman in the mirror wasn't just a wife or a mother. She was someone who had been buried under responsibilities, unspoken expectations, and the weight of a loveless marriage. But she was still there. I tilted my head, studying my reflection, and smiled. "Beautiful lady," I whispered. Just as I was about to step out, Lisa walked into my room. She took one look at me and raised an eyebrow.
Mom,
She said slowly, dragging out the word.
is this a date?
I blinked. What? Not at all. Lisa smirked, folding her arms.
You're dating Chris.
I scoffed. Of course not. I'm married. Lisa's smirk deepened.
Oh, right. My mistake.
She tapped her chin dramatically.
I thought you guys were dating. The lingering glances, the soft smiles, the, "Oh, Chris, you're so funny."
She mimicked me in a high-pitched voice. I shot her a look. I do not sound like that. She grinned.
You totally do.
I rolled my eyes, picking up my purse. Lisa leaned against the doorframe, watching me like a cat who had found a fun toy.
Well,
She said casually.
Chris is way better than Dad.
I turned to her. Lisa!
What?
She threw her hands up.
I'm just saying. He's smart, nice, actually listens when people talk. Oh, and let's not forget, attractive.
She gave me a playful nudge.
Mom, you have to admit it. He's sexy.
I let out a half laugh, shaking my head. You're impossible. Lisa grinned.
But I'm right.
I sighed, placing a hand on her shoulder. Listen to me, young lady. Chris and I are friends, nothing more. Lisa's eyes sparkled with mischief.
Uh-huh. Sure.
I shook my head, trying not to smile. Then, out of nowhere, she pulled me into a tight hug, wrapping her arms around my waist like she used to when she was little.
Have fun, Mom.
She murmured, pressing a kiss to my cheek. I hugged her back. Thanks, baby. Then I grabbed my keys, slipped on my heels, and stepped out the door, ready to reclaim a little piece of myself. Chris's house was quiet, too quiet for a birthday party. No balloons, no music, no guests. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of a wall clock. I frowned. Where's the party? Chris stepped into view, leaning against the doorway with a slow grin. His eyes flicked over me, taking in the dress.
Wow.
He said, shaking his head.
Look at you. Beautiful.
I raised an eyebrow. Really? He stepped closer.
Really, you look amazing.
Something about the way he said it made my skin warm, but I pushed past it. So? I asked, crossing my arms. Where's the birthday? Chris motioned for me to follow him inside.
Come on in.
I hesitated but stepped through the door. The moment it shut behind me, he sighed.
Elora, there is no birthday party. It was a trick.
I blinked. A trick? Chris ran a hand through his hair.
I knew only you would come. There's something I have to tell you.
I let out a breathy laugh, shaking my head. Oh, Chris, that can't happen. I know you like me, but it's too late. He stared at me, eyebrows lifting.
You can't be serious.
I threw up my hands. I am serious. I'm sorry. I'm such an idiot. Why would you even like me? Chris smirked.
Yeah, you look too old and messy.
I shot him a look. Excuse me, you just said I was beautiful. He shrugged.
That was just courtesy.
I scoffed. Very funny. He grinned, but then his expression sobered.
Elora, this isn't about us. It's about Lisa.
My stomach sank. Lisa! I was such an idiot. I thought that Chris had invited me to say something about us, but that was not the case. I felt little embarrassed, but I let it go. Chris exhaled.
I saw a spot on her neck.
I frowned. A spot? He gave me a look.
Not a normal one.
I folded my arms. Chris, she's an adult now. She might have, a man in her life. Chris shook his head.
That's not what I'm saying.
I frowned. Then what are you saying? He hesitated, then said,
It didn't look like a love bite, Elora. It looked like an animal bite.
My body stiffened. An animal? Chris's voice was firm.
I know it sounds weird, but believe me, this is serious.
A memory flashed in my mind. The dead rat under Lisa's bed. I saw something, I muttered. Chris leaned in.
What?
A dead rat just under Lisa's bed this morning. Chris's jaw tensed.
That can't be a coincidence.
I swallowed. So what do we do? Chris took a step closer.
Do you trust me?
I narrowed my eyes. Of course not. He didn't say anything, just stared at me. I cracked a smile. Of course I do. Tell me. Chris exhaled.
Install a camera in Lisa's room, and you'll see.
I hesitated. She's a young woman, Chris. That feels like an invasion of privacy. Chris held up his hands.
Only you will see, okay?
I sighed. All right, fine. Harry's office. After setting up the camera, Chris crossed his arms.
You need to tell Harry.
I exhaled sharply, pulling out my phone. I dialed Harry's number. It rang and rang. No answer. Chris rubbed the back of his neck.
Should we go to his office?
I sighed. Yeah, let's go. 15 minutes later, we walked into Harry's office. I asked one of the office members, where is he? But that man totally got shocked by seeing me in the office. He didn't say anything and he ran toward a chamber. I felt like something was wrong. I rushed toward the chamber where that man was going, but then Chris held that man and stopped him. Then finally that man said,
This is the worst time to see Harry. You will regret it.
Then I walked towards the chamber and entered. Then I saw the chamber. It seemed like an office of a personal assistant. Then I saw another door at a distance. I stepped closer. I heard something. Then I opened the door. And then I froze. Harry wasn't working. He wasn't sitting at his desk. He was on the floor. And his assistant, his very young, very enthusiastic assistant, was practically jumping on him. Chris stopped short, turned on his heel, and walked right back out. I stood there, completely still, heat creeping up my neck. Harry didn't even notice me at first. When he did, his eyes widened. I spun around and left. Chris was waiting by the elevator, hands in his pockets. When he saw my face, he let out a low whistle.
I am so sorry, Elora. I know how you feel.
I replied, It's not the first time. I have seen this before. Harry is just a dog. Chris said.
I don't know what to say, but I'm always there with you.
I forced a smile, but then I started crying. Literally, Chris held my hands, then I hugged him. I cried on his shoulders. I noticed that Chris's eyes were wet too. He really cared for me a lot. Then I said, I need some fresh air. I pressed my fingers against my temple. Chris clapped his hands together.
All right, coffee. Let's go.
I frowned. Chris. He threw an arm around my shoulders and steered me toward the exit.
Come on, you need a break. Let's go.
Sitting across from Chris, I stared at my untouched cup. Chris leaned back, sipping his own coffee.
You do realize you did nothing wrong, right?
I exhaled slowly. I know that. He smirked.
Then why do you look like you just got caught cheating on him?
I shot him a look. Chris grinned, tapping his fingers against the table.
You need a reset. Let's have a party.
I blinked. Chris, in this situation? He shrugged.
Because of this situation.
I shook my head. I'm married, Chris. He rolled his eyes.
I'm not asking you to marry me. We're friends. We can have a little fun, can't we?
I hesitated. Chris grinned.
Come on, just say yes.
I sighed. Fine. The dance club was packed. Music thumped through the floor, lights flashing across the room. Chris handed me a drink, and for the first time all night, I let myself breathe. But the thought of that chamber wasn't going out of my mind. It stuck on my mind. But Chris was determined to make me laugh. Every time I started slipping back into my thoughts, he pulled me right back out with a ridiculous joke or a playful nudge. And slowly, I let go. We danced, and for a moment I forgot about Harry. I forgot about the assistant. It was just me and Chris. Then, at some point, he was too close. His hands brushed my waist, his face inches from mine. His breath was warm against my cheek. And before I could react, he leaned in. He slowly stepped much closer to than we should. I didn't try to stop him like I wanted it. I really liked Chris since my college days, but was it right? Me and Chris like this? But why it felt so good with him? Then Chris kissed me slowly in lips. I didn't stop him for a moment. His lips were warm, smooth. It felt so good, so loved. But then I stepped back. Chris blinked, realization hitting him instantly. I didn't say anything to Chris because at first I didn't stop him. Then I stepped back. It was not totally his fault, but I was married, no matter how my husband was. I turned and walked outside, the cool night air stinging against my skin. Chris followed, his voice gentle.
Elora, I'm sorry.
I swallowed hard, staring at the pavement.
I do like you.
He admitted.
I really like you. But I should have understood.
He sighed.
You're married.
I turned to him. My chest felt heavy, my thoughts tangled. Chris, my voice was quiet. Please, I don't want to lose you as my friend. Chris studied me for a long moment. Then he gave a small smile.
You won't?
He said softly.
I won't do that again.
Something in me unclenched. We left the club, had dinner at a quiet little restaurant, and for the rest of the night, things felt normal again. Chris tried his best to normalize the situation, and when Chris finally dropped me off at my house, I realized something, no matter how much I tried to push it away. Chris was the only person who truly saw me. When I entered the house, Lisa wasn't in her bed. I stared at the empty sheets, my pulse hammering in my ears. The room felt eerily still, except for the faint rustling of the curtains from the open window. The bed was slightly unmade, the pillows indented as if she had been there, but she wasn't. I grabbed my phone and called Chris. She's not in her room, I said, my voice sharp with worry. She's gone. Chris didn't panic.
Check the footage.
I rushed to my laptop, my fingers fumbling as I pulled up the security camera feed we had installed. The footage played in black and white, grainy but clear enough. I fast-forwarded through hours of stillness, then suddenly, movement. Lisa sat up in bed, her body rigid. Then, right before my eyes, she changed. Her limbs stretched unnaturally. Her muscles shifted beneath her skin, and a thick coat of fur spread over her body like wildfire. Her eyes flashed like molten silver, sharp and wild. Then, with an effortless leap, she bounded off the bed, landed on the floor in a crouch, and disappeared through the window. The screen flickered. Then a deep, haunting howl echoed through the speakers, raising every hair on my arms. I slapped the laptop shut. Chris arrived within minutes, his eyes scanning my face.
What did you see?
I struggled to find the words. Lisa, I exhaled sharply. She's a werewolf. Chris didn't react with disbelief. He just clenched his jaw.
Then we need to find her.
We drove through the streets, searching for any sign of Lisa, but the city was asleep. No one roamed the sidewalks. No unusual sounds pierced the silence. She had vanished into the night. Then something clicked in my mind. Robin, I said suddenly. Chris glanced at me.
Her boyfriend?
She could be with him. Without another word, we turned toward Robin's house. A tall iron gate separated us from the sleek, modern home. Before I could even press the buzzer, the door swung open. A woman stood in the doorway. She was stunning. Tall, smart, her black dress hugging her curves like it was sewn onto her flawless body. The neckline dipped daringly low, exposing her skin in a way that was almost hypnotic. Her dark hair cascaded over one shoulder, and her lips curled into a knowing smile.
Yes?
She said, her voice smooth like silk. I swallowed. I'm Lisa's mother. Is she here? She tilted her head slightly as if she had already expected me.
Come inside.
The moment I stepped through the doorway, I saw Lisa. She was lying unconscious on a velvet chaise lounge, her face pale, her body limp. A tube ran from her arm, her blood being drawn out. Another tube fed blood back into her veins. Robin stood beside her, his expression calm, his hands steady. I staggered back. What the hell is going on? Chris pulled out his phone.
I'm calling 911.
Robin held up a hand.
Wait, please listen to me.
Listen? My voice broke. You're draining her blood. Robin stepped forward, his eyes imploring.
Elora, I swear, I'm helping her. Lisa has already changed, but she's weak. I'm giving her my blood to make her stronger.
The room spun. You're turning her into...
She's already one of us.
My stomach dropped. Robin's mother, Vella, watched me with an amused expression, like she had seen this unfold 100 times before. You knew about this? I demanded. Vella took a slow step forward.
Of course, Lisa belongs to this world now. There's no turning back.
I turned to Robin. You should have told me. His voice softened.
I was afraid you wouldn't let me.
Chris tensed beside me, his stance shifting like he was preparing for a fight.
She's coming with us.
Robin didn't argue, but Vella stepped forward, blocking our path.
No,
she said. I didn't see it happen. One moment she was human, the next a massive black wolf stood in front of me, its eyes blazing like hot coals. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. Then suddenly, Robin jumped in front of me.
Mom, stop!
Robin's voice was commanding, but his mother didn't back down. Chris yanked me behind him, his hand pressing against my back, protectively. For a second, no one moved. The only sound was my pulse hammering in my ears. Then Vella let out a low growl, but she stepped back. Slowly, she shifted back into human form. Robin shifted back into his human form, his chest rising and falling as he stared at his mother.
Why did you attack her?
His voice was sharp, demanding answers. Vella only laughed, slow and deliberate, as if she had been waiting for this moment. I pushed myself up from the floor, my entire body trembling, not just from fear, but from the sheer insanity of what was happening. What is wrong with you? I snapped, my voice unsteady but firm. Vela turned to me, a smirk curving her lips.
Nothing is wrong with me.
Robin's eyes darkened.
Mom, you said I had to change Lisa into a powerful werewolf so I could marry her? Lisa's mother is right here. She has the right to take Lisa home if she wants. What's your problem?
Vela sighed, almost as if she pitied him.
I lied.
She said, her voice calm but dripping with cruelty.
You're never going to marry Lisa.
A stunned silence fell over the room. Robin's head jerked back as if he had been slapped.
Excuse me? What?
Vela said.
I was just making sure that Lisa trusts in me, and my plan was working well, and I was looking for a good opportunity, and one day I would have destroyed Lisa.
Robin asked.
Then why you asked me to convert her into a werewolf?
Vela replied.
So that you could believe me. It was easy to get your trust, Robin, and after all of Lisa gets converted into a werewolf, then she can't live with her parents. She would have been compelled to live with us, and then it would be a lot easier for me.
Vela stepped forward, her heels clicking against the floor.
Lisa was never meant for you, Robin. I will destroy her, and while I'm at it, I'll destroy the woman who ruined my sister's life. She jabbed a manicured finger in my direction.
Chris scoffed.
You mean Elora? Are you out of your damn mind? She's never even met you before today.
Robin spun toward his mother.
Mom, what the hell are you talking about?
Vela exhaled sharply, shaking her head as if she was tired of explaining herself.
My sister Bella was in love once. She gave her heart to a man. He took her away, made her believe in dreams that never existed. Then, when she was expecting a child, he threw her away like trash.
My stomach dropped. That's awful, but what does that have to do with me? Vela's expression hardened, her eyes filled with pure hatred.
That man was Harry.
Chris and I froze. Robin's mouth opened, then closed again, like he couldn't process the words. I forced out a breath.
Yes, and now I'll make sure everyone in his family pays for what he did to Bella.
Chris took a step forward.
Do you even have proof? Or are you just out for blood because you want revenge?
Vela's lip curled.
I don't need to prove anything to you. And Robin...
She turned to him, her expression deadly serious.
Don't you dare get in my way.
Robin clenched his fists at his sides.
You're a liar.
His voice was low, dangerous. Vela tilted her head, unimpressed.
No, I'm bringing justice. Harry is a liar. His whole family is built on lies.
The room felt like it was closing in, and before I could process my next move, Vela began to transform. Robin didn't hesitate. His body shifted faster than I'd ever seen, his bones cracking as he lunged between me and his mother.
I can take only one.
He growled. Chris stiffened.
What did you just say?
Before I could react, Robin grabbed me and took off, moving so fast that my surroundings blurred. I twisted in his grip. Robin, stop! Chris was running after us, but he couldn't keep up.
Oh, hell no.
He muttered, still chasing. Just as I thought Robin was going to keep running, Vela appeared ahead of us. I gasped. How the hell did she... Chris skidded to a stop, his chest heaving.
Vela, take me and leave Elora.
Robin stopped and dropped me onto the ground, his hands shaking. I turned to Chris, furious. Why are you doing this? There's no need. You care, I know, but please just go. Before he could answer, Vela lunged. Chris moved in a blink, shoving me aside. A second later, her claws ripped into his back, and he let out a sharp, pained breath as he collapsed onto the ground. I scrambled toward him. Chris! Chris gritted his teeth.
Elora, run. Robin, take her.
Vela crouched, preparing for another attack. Robin's eyes flicked between her and Chris. Then, just as Vella lunged again, Robin stepped between them, blocking her. I didn't understand what was happening. Then, out of nowhere, a deep, guttural growl filled the air. A dark silver wolf shot forward, its powerful body colliding with Vella's. Lisa. Robin's eyes widened.
Lisa, stop!
But she didn't stop. Lisa's wolf form snarled, attacking Vella with everything she had. Vella fought back, claws slashing, jaws snapping, but Lisa wasn't backing down. Chris pushed himself up on his elbows, panting.
This is insane. Harry is the problem, and you two are tearing each other apart over nothing.
Robin's chest rose and fell as he turned to Lisa.
Chris is right. Why fight among ourselves? Revenge should be against the one who actually did wrong.
Lisa's wolf form turned toward Robin. Her golden eyes locked onto his.
Then choose.
She said, her voice carrying through the air like a command.
Your mother or me?
Robin's entire body went rigid. For the longest moment, he said nothing. Then he walked toward Vella, his head lowered. Vella smirked, victorious.
If you let me take Harry, the rest of you can go free. But understand this, Robin, I will never accept Lisa as your mate.
Lisa shifted back into her human form, her face unreadable.
Robin?
Her voice was barely above a whisper. Robin looked at the ground.
I can't leave my mother.
Lisa inhaled sharply, then let out a breath.
I'm proud of you,
she said softly.
I'm proud that I loved a man with honor.
Chris grumbled, still wincing from the injury in his back.
Are we done with the emotional speeches? Because I'd like to get the hell out of here.
Vella rolled her eyes.
Run before I change my mind. But if you try to protect Harry, I will destroy every last one of you.
Chris shot me a look.
Harry wrecked your life, just like he did Bella's. He's never been faithful to you, Elora. He doesn't even care about you.
His words cut through me like a blade, but I couldn't argue, because deep down I knew he was right. And maybe I was done protecting a man who never once protected me. Chris's house felt different that night, like we had carried the storm inside with us. I could still feel the weight of everything that had happened. My hands trembled as I grabbed a first aid kit from the kitchen, but it wasn't just because of the night's events. It was the realization that everything I thought I knew about my family, my marriage, my life, was now a tangled mess of truths I never asked for. Chris sat in a chair, his back stiff, the wound on his side still bleeding through his torn shirt. Lisa stood beside him, her face pale, her fingers curled into fists. I'm calling a doctor, I said, already pulling out my phone. Chris sighed.
Elora, it's not that bad. I've had worse.
Chris, please, I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. I just saw you get mauled like a piece of meat. Let me do this. Lisa placed a hand on my arm, her voice quiet but firm.
Mom, let him be. Chris knows his limits.
I looked between them, my frustration simmering, but I knew they were right. Chris wasn't an ordinary man. He had survived things most people wouldn't. Still, I wouldn't sit back and do nothing. I found clean bandages and started pressing them against the wound. Lisa watched silently for a moment before she spoke.
What's wrong?
I almost laughed. What wasn't wrong? My daughter is a werewolf. My husband had ruined a woman's life and left her to suffer. And now that woman's sister wanted revenge, and I was caught in the middle. What's wrong? I echoed, shaking my head. Lisa, I loved Harry. I have spent years trying to be the wife he wanted, the woman he needed. And now I have to lose him, not because I chose to walk away, not because I fell out of love, but because of him, because of what he did. Lisa's eyes darkened.
Mom, he deserves it.
My chest tightened. Lisa!
No, Mom, listen to me.
She took a deep breath as if steadying herself.
Whether it was you or someone else, Harry had no right to do what he did. No right to destroy someone like that. Vela isn't wrong for wanting justice. You know that.
Chris, now bandaged, stood up slowly, wincing slightly as he moved.
Elora, Lisa is right.
I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that despite everything, I had been his wife, that I had shared a life with him, but deep down I knew the truth. The man I had loved was not the man I thought he was. Chris placed a hand on my shoulder.
Elora, don't carry his sins on your back. Lisa is here. You are here. That's what matters now.
I exhaled shakily. Then, without thinking, I pulled Lisa into a hug. She hesitated for a moment, but then she melted into it, her arms tightening around me. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace, but peace never lasts. That night, Lisa started behaving strangely. We were sitting in the living room, the weight of the evening settling over us, when she suddenly tensed. Her fingers gripped the edge of the couch, her breathing uneven. Then her nails started to lengthen, her muscles tightening, her face contorting as if she was in pain. "Lisa!" My voice was barely above a whisper. She clenched her jaw.
Mom, I can't.
Chris was at her side in seconds, pressing his hands against her shoulders.
Lisa, focus. You're strong enough to control it.
She gritted her teeth, her body trembling. Her eyes flickered, golden light flashing in the dim room. I could see the struggle in her expression, the battle between human and wolf. I had never felt so helpless in my life. Lisa let out a low growl, her head tilting back, her chest rising and falling in short, sharp breaths. But then, just as quickly as it started, it stopped. She let out a shaky gasp, her body collapsing into the couch. Tears welled in her eyes.
Mom,
Her voice broke.
I love him so much.
I knew exactly who she meant. I smoothed her hair back. I know, Lisa. She wiped her eyes roughly, frustration written all over her face.
I hate this. I hate that everything is falling apart.
Chris sat down beside her, his voice gentle.
Lisa, love doesn't just disappear because things get hard.
She let out a bitter laugh.
Tell that to my dad.
I swallowed the lump in my throat. I asked, should I talk with Robin? Lisa took a deep breath as if gathering herself. Then she looked at me with a fierce determination.
Mom, I don't want you to fix this for me. I don't want you to go to Robin and beg for anything. If he wants me, he'll find me.
I felt a strange sense of pride. My daughter had been through so much, but she still stood strong. Chris chuckled softly.
She's got your fire, Elora.
Lisa turned to him, a small smile breaking through her sadness. Then she leaned in and pressed a kiss to his cheek, and then she hugged him.
Thank you, Chris.
She murmured. Chris blinked, then let out a soft laugh.
You're welcome, kid.
I smiled, watching the two of them. For all the chaos in our lives, for all the uncertainty of what was coming next, one thing was clear. Lisa wasn't alone, and neither was I. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Vela was still out there. Harry's past was catching up to him, and whether we wanted it or not, the storm wasn't over. Or maybe Vela had crashed my husband in pieces, like a broken mirror. The evening air carried a restless energy, a warning I could feel deep in my bones. A knock echoed through the house, sharp and deliberate.
I'll get it,
Chris said, already moving. It's okay, I interrupted, stepping forward. Something told me this wasn't a moment to let anyone else answer. I pulled open the door. There she was, Vela, standing on my doorstep like she belonged there, wrapped in a gothic black dress that clung to her like a shadow. The deep neckline framed her collarbones, her dark waves falling effortlessly around her face. She was bold, dominant, beautiful in a way that came with sharp edges. We locked eyes. Neither of us spoke. Then she tilted her head slightly.
Can I come in?
I crossed my arms. You already took my husband. What more do you want? A slow smile touched her lips.
Yes, I did.
She admitted, no shame, no hesitation.
But this isn't about that.
Lisa had stood up from the couch, her gaze sharp as glass. Chris leaned against the wall, his jaw clenched tight. Vella stepped inside anyway. She was too calm, too composed. That made me uneasy. She turned to face us.
I sent Frida to Harry.
Lisa inhaled sharply. Chris tensed beside her. Vella went on.
I needed Harry distracted so I could do what had to be done. Frida was on my side at first. She knew everything. But she was never truly loyal. She was on her own side.
I folded my arms. What does that mean?
She was afraid.
Vella said simply.
Afraid that if Lisa embraced what she is, Harry wouldn't need her anymore, because he will be busy with Lisa, as Lisa will be missing. So she betrayed me. She took matters into her own hands and sent Lisa to the rehab center, thinking she could have her fixed. Harry was giving her money, love, and everything a woman wants. And yes, James is not her husband. It was a fake setting.
That place was a nightmare.
Vella's expression tightened.
I didn't know she did that. She was taking money from me as well as from Harry. But then I found Lisa's phone in her pocket. That's when I realized.
A horrible feeling sank into my stomach. So the attack at the rehab center, Lisa's transformation.
She had no control.
Vella finished, her voice almost gentle.
They forced her into a place she never should have been. It was Frida's doing, not mine. And for that...
Vella's eyes burned with something darker. I exhaled slowly. Where is Frida now? Her lips curled into something resembling a smirk.
Gone to her deserving place, out of this world. I helped her.
The room was dead silent. Lisa's hands curled into fists. Chris watched Vella carefully, his expression unreadable. I shook my head. Why are you telling us this now? Vella's confidence wavered. For the first time since she stepped into my house, she hesitated. Then quietly she said,
Because I need your help.
I let out a bitter laugh. You think I'd help you? She met my stare.
It's about Robin.
Lisa's shoulders tensed. I could see the effort she put into keeping her expression blank.
He's not eating, not drinking, barely speaking.
Vella's voice cracked and she clenched her jaw like she hated that weakness.
He's wasting away.
Lisa scoffed.
So?
Vella flinched just a little.
Lisa, I'm asking you, please, visit him.
Lisa's eyes flickered to me. I could see the storm brewing behind them. I narrowed my eyes. Why should she? Vella inhaled sharply.
Because I want to ask for her hand.
Silence. Lisa blinked. Chris straightened. I just stared.
I want Lisa to marry Robin.
Vella said, her voice steady but soft.
And I'm asking you all, as his family, to consider it.
Lisa's expression was unreadable. Then she let out a quiet breath and said,
I don't trust you.
Vella didn't look offended.
But you trust Robin.
Lisa's jaw tightened. Vella stepped back.
I'll bring him here.
She turned and walked toward the door. The click of her heels was the only sound in the room. Chris sighed, rubbing his temples.
Lisa, if she's asking this, you have to at least think about it.
I hesitated. Do you want me to come with you? Chris added.
I can go too.
Lisa shook her head. Then before I could say another word, she stepped outside into the night. Chris watched the door like he was ready to bolt after Lisa. His jaw was tight, his hands already forming fists.
We should follow her.
he said, his voice low but urgent. I exhaled. Chris, Lisa is stronger than both of us combined. She's a werewolf now. She can handle herself. He turned to me, expression unreadable, like he was searching for something in my face.
That doesn't mean we don't protect her.
She doesn't need protecting. I took a step closer. But I do. Chris's eyes flickered with something, concern, confusion, maybe something else.
What do you mean?
I need to go, I said simply. His brows furrowed.
Go where?
I smiled softly. I know you want me to stay, Chris. I appreciate it more than you know, but I have to figure things out for myself. His lips pressed into a thin line.
There's no need for that. Hey, I got it, okay? I won't try to sleep with you or anything.
He raised his hands in surrender.
I swear.
I laughed, shaking my head. That's not the point, and you know it. Something in his expression shifted. He wasn't just asking me to stay for Lisa's sake. There was something else in his eyes, something that made my chest feel too tight. I stepped forward, close enough to feel his warmth. His breath caught slightly. Then I kissed him. It was soft, barely there, just a moment of something real before I stepped back. I know you're a good man, Chris, I said quietly. Maybe we'll meet again. I didn't wait for him to answer. I turned and walked out. A small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. The silence felt strange, but at least it was my silence. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone. Lisa picked up immediately.
Mom?
Is everything all right? I asked.
Yeah, and Robin is coming with us.
I leaned back against the pillows. I moved. I'm sending you the address. There was a long pause, then...
What? Why? What about Chris?
I closed my eyes. That can't happen, Lisa. Forget him.
No,
She said firmly.
he risked his life for you. Dad never did that. You can't just walk away from him.
My throat tightened. Lisa...
No, Mom. You don't get to do this.
I let out a slow breath. Fine, I'll talk to him. I ended the call before she could say anything else. Then I sent her my location. Lisa and Robin arrived within the hour. Robin hugged me as soon as he stepped in.
Elora, thank you for everything, and I'm sorry.
I pulled back to study him. What about your mother?
I'll live with her, but Lisa will stay with you. We'll all meet on weekends.
I turned to Lisa. And the marriage? Lisa gave a small smile.
That's a long way off.
Before I could reply, there was a knock at the door. Lisa walked over, cracked it open, then turned to me, eyes glinting with something smug.
Chris!
She called out. Then she whispered something to him, and whatever it was, he smiled. He stepped inside.
Why did you send me your address?
I raised an eyebrow. Must have been a mistake. Chris let out a short laugh.
Okay then. Delete my number. Don't call me again.
My stomach twisted. What?
Nothing.
He shoved his hands into his pockets.
I'm seeing someone. Thought you should know. Because, unlike you, I actually know how to live.
Heat flared in my chest. Fine. Chris glanced at Robin, who looked just as confused as I felt. Then he turned to Lisa, pulling her into a tight hug.
Love you, sweetheart. See you.
Lisa smiled, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek.
Love you too.
Chris turned, heading for the door. Lisa and Robin stared at me. I crossed my arms. What? Lisa gave me a look.
Go!
I scoffed. Go where? Lisa folded her arms.
He's the best man I've ever met. He'll be the best father I'll ever have.
My throat went dry. What did you just say? Lisa sighed dramatically.
Mom, go.
I shouldn't. Lisa rolled her eyes.
Why are you pretending you don't care?
Because I don't. Lisa let out a frustrated groan.
Mom, stop, go.
I exhaled sharply. I'm only doing this because you're making me. Lisa smirked.
Yeah, now go.
Before I could change my mind, I turned and ran out the door. His flat wasn't far when I reached Chris's place. I knocked. The door swung open and a woman stood there, tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that scanned me like she was trying to place my face.
Looking for someone?
She asked. I swallowed hard, forcing my expression to stay neutral. No, it's fine. It's already late. I turned, my heart in my throat, ready to leave. This was a mistake. Of course it was a mistake. I should have known better than to come.
Elora!
I froze at that voice. Slowly I turned back, and there he was. Chris. He stepped toward me, his brows pulled together in confusion.
Where are you going?
I forced a small smile. When you said you were going to date, I should have stopped you right there, but now it's late. Chris stared at me for a second, then exhaled sharply.
No, she's my sister, Sarah.
The woman, Sarah, chuckled, crossing her arms.
Okay, I'll leave you two to figure out whatever this is. See you at Christmas, brother. Nice meeting you, dear. She winked at me before walking off into the night.
Oh, I felt my face heat up. I thought... Chris smirked.
Yeah, I know what you thought. Come inside. I am not dating anyone, Elora. That was a trick, but I thought it failed. Well, did it?
I hesitated, my mind screaming at me to turn around and walk away, but my feet had a different plan. Before I knew it, I was inside. Chris shut the door behind me, then turned, arms crossed.
Tell me, why'd you come back?
I swallowed, shifting on my feet. I shouldn't have?
Why not? I'm just asking, what brought you here?
I let out a breath. Lisa thinks... He took a step closer.
Thinks what?
I could feel his warmth. Too close, too familiar, I needed distance. That you're a good guardian, I said quickly, stepping back. Chris arched a brow.
That's all.
That's all. His jaw tightened. He saw through me. He always did.
You came all the way here.
He said, voice low.
Just to tell me that?
Yeah. Chris stared at me, then sighed.
Coffee?
No, it's fine, I said, already turning toward the door. I'll see you at Christmas.
Christmas?
His tone was incredulous.
It's September. 4 months away?
Yeah. He let out a dry laugh.
All right, as you wish.
I forced a smile. Goodbye, Chris. I stepped outside, the cold night air hitting me like a slap. My hands curled into fists as I walked away, my mind racing. What the hell is wrong with me? Why didn't I just tell him? Should I turn back? My steps slowed. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, he's not stopping me. I clenched my teeth, forcing myself forward, but my body refused. My feet planted themselves on the ground, and before I could second-guess myself, I spun around. Chris was already there, standing in the doorway, waiting. My breath caught, and before I knew it, I was running straight into his arms. He didn't hesitate. The second I reached him, his hands grabbed my waist, pulling me in as our lips crashed together. It wasn't soft, it wasn't careful, it was raw, desperate, like we'd both been starving for too long and finally gave in. I clung to him, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. Chris groaned against my lips.
Elora!
I didn't let him finish. I pushed him inside, slamming the door shut behind us. My hands were everywhere, his chest, his shoulders, his back. Feeling, memorizing. Chris backed me against the wall, his breath uneven.
Are you sure?
I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed his shirt and pulled it over his head. That was all the answer he needed. The rest of the night was a blur of heat, hands, lips, whispered names. I had never felt like this before, and I never wanted it to end.